It's an absolutely insane day in the world of Magic the Gathering. Papa Hasbro has just declared that their revenue has cratered, and as a result, they're firing over 1,000 employees. This is going to have a huge impact on Magic.
Magic. I am a wizard! History. I'm an old wizard! The Magic Historian. My bones hurt.
Greetings, owners of fine luxury cardboard rectangles, my friends. I hope the day finds you well because we have gathered for another installment of Mega Magic News. Today, we're talking about the Hasbro financial fiasco. Now, before we dive into that, I just want to do a little public service announcement because I know some people are troubled by what's going on with Magic. The news is bad and it's going to get worse. You're allowed to ignore the bad news. You're allowed to go and play the game and pretend like none of this is happening. Don't even worry about it. But if these videos are troubling you, then by all means, click the 3 little dots down beside a video and say, don't recommend this channel anymore, because the news is not bound to get better, and I don't ultimately want to make anybody unhappy. We're here to talk about what's going on and hopefully move into a better future while providing some information and catharsis. That out of the way, let's dive in to what's going on with Hasbro. I got a whole page of notes here. So, revenue has cratered by 17%. And understand, I'm not talking about profit, I'm talking about every dollar that Hasbro brings in before expenses. Down by 17%. This is causing Hasbro to panic because remember, at the end of the day, Hasbro has to keep the stockholders happy. That's the name of the game. Nothing else matters. And the stockholders are not happy. All they care about is getting their money out of the company. So basically what Hasbro is doing is they're trying to put the best face on this that they can. They're going, hey, you know what, guys? We've got great news for the fourth quarter. Wizards of the Coast revenue is up by 22%. And then they turn around and go, all the other revenue, unfortunately, is absolutely down. So everywhere but Wizards of the Coast is down for Hasbro. Every single department, all their divisions are bleeding out money. Wizards of the Coast is the only thing that's bringing in money, and Hasbro has been throwing that money at other projects that haven't been working out. And remember, friends, they have the D&D situation on their hands as well, which is causing an exodus of D&D players at the time when Hasbro was trumpeting how they were going to be monetizing the D&D players even more than usual. So they were expecting to kind of accent the money they were making from Magic with Dungeons and Dragons money, but that ain't gonna happen. So they gotta make up that shortfall as well. Now, the biggest tell is that the shares lost 7% of their earnings in dividends. So basically, how it went before was Hasbro was paying out $1 a share in dividends. So if you had 100 shares, you get $100, right? Well, now it's 93 cents a share. That is a drop of 7%. And considering that the shareholders only care about money, that is a huge deal. So Hasbro has to scramble and say, no, please don't sell your shares. We don't want them to crater. Stick with us. Everything's going to be fine. So they announce basically what's going on for the full year. They're down almost 10% overall as a company. Full on Hasbro, not just for the quarter where we're talking 17%, for the whole year, they're down 10%. And Wizards of the Coast, when you actually look at the whole year, they're only up by 3%. See, what happened with Wizards of the Coast is when the pandemic hit, they completely lost their minds and thought, we can do no wrong. Let's basically gut our distribution network. Forget about the LGSs. Forget all that nonsense. Why don't we just go singles direct to consumer through Secret Layers and Amazon? And on top of that, we'll turn to the LGSs, put them in a chokehold and go, yo, if you want to be in the WPN at all, you have to start feeding all of your customers into our system. All of your Friday Night Magic players have to be in our system and need to play digitally on Arena. So they've shepherded people away from what grew Magic. If you weren't around from the get-go, LGSs are what grew Magic, and they're still an important backbone, regardless of Wizards trying to pretend like they're not. On one hand, they'll downplay it, but on the other hand, they'll send out their VPs to go, hey guys, do you have any idea why Standard is failing so miserably? We have some ideas, but we were just wondering, could it have to do with the fact that we make the most greedy choices and have no interest in stewarding this? They don't want to grow the forest anymore. Magic used to be organic growth through Standard. Now they want to make plastic trees and sell them to you as if they're 100-year-old trees that have grown properly. That is the era we're living in. So Wizards is only up 3%. And remember, as well, friends, remember, they went ahead and added an 11% increase in product prices. And we had Double Masters 2022 in this year, or in 2022, obviously, it's 2023 now. But we had it for that fiscal year. We had that in there. We had the Commander Baldur's Gate where they doubled up on that, all of it, right? And yet they still, over the year, could only get Wizards up by 3% when everything is down. So how do they mollify the shareholders? Well, they turn around and go, look, we're going to reduce costs. We're going to reduce costs by $250 to $300 million by 2025. So basically, over the next 2 years, they're going to try and save $300 million. But it's so weird to me because if I'm reading this properly, it looks like they're losing out on $300 million just this year. So they're trying to be like, hey, like they're playing games with their shareholders. They're like, guys, look, we lost $300, but we're going to save $300 over the next couple of years. By the way, saving those $300, the restructuring costs and everything, it's going to be another $80 million. So they're looking to save $250 to $300 million at the cost of $80 million by basically slashing a ton of their workforce. 1,000 positions are going to be thrown off to the side. And let me ask you, do you think it's going to be like Nintendo? I don't know the name of the guy, which is a travesty because I respect what he did. What I think it was like the president and vice president of Nintendo who were like, oh, you know what? Our earnings are down. So what we're going to do is we're going to take a huge pay cut so that our regular employees don't have to feel the hit from this. That's not how Hasbro works. All the people who are responsible for this, all those corporate ball bags at the top level, the ones who genuinely don't care and just see us as numbers, they're all going to get to keep their jobs, right? They're not going to hack anybody off at the top. What's going to happen is they're going to hack their customer service departments. They're going to hack all these different little places, chop more people off, but still expect the same and better results. We're going to make 50% more profit after hacking 15%. They're getting rid of 15% of their workforce and going, this is going to make us more money. It absolutely won't, right? There's no way. Yes, you're saving the money you have to pay those employees, but it's just crazy. Do you know how this is being presented to shareholders? It's being presented as if it was a challenging holiday consumer environment. Magic players are more than willing to spend tons of money on this game. Double Masters was the perfect example of this. If you don't know how well Double Masters did, every single distributor that got it, every single LGS that got it went, I'm only selling some of it, I'm holding on to some of it. Everybody was buying it at full price. Everybody was hanging on to it going, hey, I know this is going to be better. And it was the most expensive product Wizards of the Coast had ever made. They literally succeeded with Double Masters. And then they couldn't help themselves. They went with the 30th anniversary stuff. All these are basically a combination of the whole pandemic effect where they feel like they can do absolutely no wrong over at Wizards of the Coast going, people keep buying. But the thing is, it takes time for stuff to work its way through the system. It takes a few years to really see the effects of what's going on with these choices. So the next couple of years are going to be cash grab ugly. It is going to get even worse. They said what they're doing as part of their strategy is rapidly growing direct to consumer. And we've seen that, right? Secret Lair, we had over 70 Secret Lairs in 2022. And guess what, friends? We've already got a Secret Lair super drop that's been announced for winter. Now we've seen 2 of them. We were talking about those yesterday, and this one's being done a little bit differently. It's actually going to be available for multiple months. So when these Secret Lairs first came out, they really tried to hit you with you've got 4 days to order this. And then they went to the complete opposite end of the spectrum with the crazy astrology Secret Lairs. Do you guys even remember those? I don't even think I saw the last 2, really. They just kind of faded into obscurity with this weird setup where you could order the first one for 12 months and then the last one's only available for 1 month, and it's just this weird sort of beast that ultimately didn't sell that well. But they're trying all these different angles. Double Masters was right, that sweet spot, they found it. That was where they could make the money. Everybody wanted the product, hung on to it, and they didn't end up enraging their fan base. But you're looking at the fourth quarter where they set so many people off that game stores, literally big game stores, had to go, we're not buying cards for the next month or two because we've spent all our money. Everybody's selling their collections. Wizard had to go after proxy websites because they were like, oh man, so many people are bailing on our game and getting proxies and selling out their collections. We need to stamp down on the easiest ways to get proxies to stop this from happening. There has been a massive exodus in Magic the Gathering. Now D&D has had an even bigger exodus where this D&D Beyond Insanity has gotten completely out of hand, where Wizards put out their first open gaming license and everyone went, no good. And then they tried a few other things, put out the 1.2. It's still no good. They are still bleeding out customers constantly. And this was the area they were talking about monetizing in that crazy, I like to drink wine in my hot tub earnings call. So you have this scenario where now even more money has to churn out, right? They still have to meet the goal they set of increasing profits by 50% over 3 years. They're hammering off a bunch of their workforce. We all know that everything but Wizards of the Coast for Hasbro is an absolute failure. They're dinosaurs. They don't understand the new world, right? Back in the day when I was a kid, Hasbro was the king. They were like responsible for making every show I watched growing up, all these toys that I wanted. But in this current era where you can grab a tablet and play Minecraft or Roblox or the stuff that kids do, all that kind of stuff, these toys, they don't stand up. So Hasbro's crumpling down. The only people who will buy this stuff are like adult man children now, right? You can't get kids into these games the same way unless their parents are into this stuff. So the only ones who are really buying Transformer stuff, the only ones who are really buying that kind of gear from Hasbro are old people who are just getting older. Middle-aged individuals like, I couldn't get this, like me, who couldn't have an Optimus Prime when they were a kid, always wanted one. I had a cheesy little GoBot, man. I'm still triggered by that years later. So you have a scenario where Wizards has these properties that, like, do you want to know what they're relying on? They're relying on Magic, they're relying on D&D, they're relying on Transformers, Nerf, and Peppa Pig. Transformers, Nerf, and Peppa Pig and D&D are what have to combine with Magic the Gathering to bring the money in. And we all know where the majority of money is coming from. Nobody is going for $150 singles of Peppa Pig on the secondary market. All this money has to come from Magic the Gathering. There's nowhere else to get it from, at least not in the short term, and that's all Wizards has, right? Because Hasbro's stock price has dropped by 50% over the last year or two, right? They're just on this massive downward decline, and Wizards of the Coast is the life preserver. That's the only thing that's keeping them above water. So Wizards of the Coast has to deliver enough profits to keep the shareholders happy and enough for Hasbro to start new initiatives so their company doesn't completely crumble. It's an insane situation to find yourselves in, and the most alarming statement in the entire thing to me was what seems innocuous if you don't really get it at first. It says they're putting the consumer at the center of everything they do from now on. And you might go, well, that's great. I'm the consumer. I want to be at the center. That means you're going to do the best job for me. Give me the best products and treat me right, right? No. This is a statement made to shareholders to tell them why they should keep putting money into this company, which means they're talking about how they're going to put you at the center to milk every single drop from you. Wizards of the Coast has already gone to the route where they're selling singles, cramming things through Amazon, all these dumps, and now we're reaching this level where like we're putting the consumer at the center. If that's what you're doing now, what were you doing before? What new ways of monetization are lurking around the corner, right? Like, forget Phyrexia, all will be one. It's Magic, all will be one profit source. We are all cows, and we better grow 3 extra udders because we're expected to support Magic the Gathering and Hasbro. And you have to understand that Hasbro will crush Magic into the ground and destroy the game if it means quarterly earnings, okay? It's like trusting that vampires are going to keep these humans. They'll never let the humans dry up because they need them for blood. If they need them to keep going, they will suck the blood out of each one and throw it aside. If it means that they get to skis through the world for another day, just, oh, profit, money. Fire the little peasants who can barely afford to eat. I need 6 more yachts! Triple the price of magic cards. So yeah, anyways, the future, my friends, is about to get super ugly. The writing is out there. They've stated it themselves. Hasbro's coming for our wallets even harder than before. So, in the meantime, if you want something to blow off a little steam, enjoy yourself, you can check out the lore I got over on Fantasy Geographic. If you just want to spend some time enjoying Magic with me, then come on over and check out the welcome booster they open. Because I assure you, I actually love this game. And I want it to survive for a long time so we can all enjoy it. That being said, big shout out to all my patrons. See you guys next time.